Now, a lot of people yesterday who couldn't understand what happened here decided that this is probably Pam Bondi's fault, that she was acting as some sort of rogue agent. There were calls on for Donald Trump to fire Pam Bondi as though she did this on her own, as though she's the corrupt one. She's covering this up. Trump has no idea what's going on. He didn't approve of this. He would never have approved of something like this. And yet, earlier today, Trump was at the White House, and a reporter asked him what I regard as the key question. There are a lot of key questions, but I regard this as one of the most pressing that has never really been addressed, including even yesterday with the Justice Department's announcement, which is, did Jeffrey Epstein work with or for any foreign or domestic intelligence agencies? Did he have ties to a foreign government? Did he have ties to a foreign intelligence agency? Many of Jeffrey Epstein's closest and most important associates, the ones who made him very rich, are heavily involved in pro-Israel activism, but could be other countries paying him. Who knows? We just never got an answer to that question. The Justice Department denied all these other things, but didn't address this. So a journalist, not sure who it was, I'm going to find out, but to his credit, asked what I think is exactly the right question, and he didn't ask it to Pam. Well, he did actually ask it to Pam Bondi, but Trump intervened and said, I'd like to answer. And here's what Trump had to say.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
I mean, how anyone who is a Trump supporter can listen to that and not feel completely condescended to and devalued and ignored is something I'll never understand. It wasn't the media obsessing on the Epstein case. It was Donald Trump's closest political associates. In fact, J.D. Vance bashed the media repeatedly for not asking questions about the Epstein case. He said anyone who's a journalist worthy of that term would be digging into all of this and demanding answers from the Biden administration about why these documents aren't forthcoming, about what information there is, about who's on that client list. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino went on every podcast they could find, including in Dan Bongino's case, his own, to talk about this repeatedly. We showed you all the video last night. By the way, I was on Breaking Points earlier today with Crystal Ball, and I'm sure every show did this, but they compiled their own video montage of huge numbers of Trump officials, Trump supporters, leading Trump influencers over the last 4 years, banging the table in an accusatory way, implying that the Biden administration is in on this predatory pedophile plot because they're hiding all the truth. And then Trump, when asked about it, a matter that his own movement, his own supporters, that Trump himself was asked about several times during the campaign, and said, yeah, I think that's something that probably should be disclosed. I'm going to look into this. Then has the audacity to say, how can you ask about something so trivial? We're dealing with important things like the flood in Texas and this great war victory, this 12-day war, this glorious war victory, this triumph that we bombed for about 30 minutes, Iran's nuclear facilities. And Netanyahu's here, and the two war leaders are expecting this parade in gratitude for this historic victory that they ended up waging. And Trump is saying, all these great things we're doing and all these tragedies, you're going to talk about something as trivial as the Epstein case? this creep that's dead. I mean, all the people raising the questions most loudly still are Trump's own supporters. His vice president, his attorney general, his FBI director, his deputy FBI director, his own attorney, personal attorney, who's now the U.S. attorney for New Jersey. And he's going to attack a reporter and demean a reporter, and that's as angry as Trump really gets in terms of like his visceral behavior. And I said, he exploded in anger at this reporter, and a lot of Trump supporters said, no, it wasn't exploding in anger. Whatever, that's a semantic thing. For me, I haven't seen Trump quite that animated in spewing anger toward a reporter, but whatever. The substance is what matters, and the substance is him suddenly now pronouncing that the Epstein case is not just trivial, but too trivial to even waste his time asking about. Now that his administration has said, nothing there, nothing to see, move on. And that's Trump reinforcing that message. So that's number one. Number two is, to whatever extent people wanted to blame Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or pretend that they were doing something on their own that Trump didn't approve of, that effort should immediately cease, because Trump obviously at least believes what they believe, but went even further to say it's not even worth talking about. It's so trivial. Here's the rest of this video where Pam Bondi goes on to address this question in my understanding for the first time.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, but that's maybe what you meant by that, but that's not what was asked. They didn't ask, is the Epstein file going to be released? The question that we showed last night specifically was, are you going to release the client list? This is what Donald Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi have been demanding the release of, this specific client list. And in response to that question, are you going to release the client list? She said, yeah, it's sitting on my desk for review. And now we're told there is no client list. What was sitting on her desk? She said, no, that's not what I meant. I meant the entire Epstein file. But there's so much more to it than this one specific comment. There's so many comments from all of these people like that. So let's see what the rest of what she had to say.
Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
Nobody wants that released. Nobody asked for that to be released. She's all acting like all, noble, like she's strong. She's not. She doesn't care how many people demand to watch the videos of Jeffrey Epstein having sex with young kids or the child porn. Nobody asked for that. That was never part of what was demanded, not by her, not by anyone else interested in this case. It's a complete straw man. How dare you demand the release of disgusting child porn? We're not going to ever show that. No one wants that. No one cares about that. No one's seeking that.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Oh, okay, that's it on Epstein. Do you see what this decree? No more on Epstein. No more questions. Okay. This is, I only saw the part about Trump, the excerpt from Trump. I didn't hear Pam Bondi's answer. But I want you to note something here. She was asked a very specific question, which, as I keep saying, is a key question, if not the key question. For me, it's the key question, because it's never been answered, including in their statements yesterday, which is, did Jeffrey Epstein work with a foreign or domestic intelligence agency? And you notice they're not answering that. She said, I don't have any knowledge of that. We'll have to get back to you, as though that wasn't even something that they looked at. But we're never going to get an answer on that because Trump is saying, how dare you even ask about it? Pam Bondi is saying that's it on Epstein. There's evidence to connect Jeffrey Epstein to Israel. And we went over it last night. Not saying I believe or know that he was working in some way with the Israeli government or intelligence agencies in that government, or with the CIA or with intelligence agencies within the US government, but that's certainly something we ought to know. And that do you see they're still not saying it? There's no answer on that. Trump last night, just to make sure that no one thought that he had any different view or different position than Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, went to Truth Social and said the FBI, under the direction of Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is back to the basics. Again, they did a little detour on this irrelevant Epstein stuff because you wanted that. No, they wanted it. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were the leading voices in the MAGA movement, pounding the table on this. They're back to basics, though, now, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but, quote, politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case, and now they have been unleashed to do their jobs, and they are doing just that. Keep it up. Make America safe again. So, in case anybody was wondering, did Dan Bongino and Kash Patel or Pam Bondi do this? Because without Trump's direction, without his approval, without his knowledge against his will, the answer is no. The answer is no. Donald Trump is fully on board with decreeing that you get no more documents, no more answers, nothing on the Epstein file, notwithstanding how many times you were promised it. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.